my head hanging down. Oh, please, baby. Ooh, please, when the man left me.
So it's officially the end of an era on this channel. I had the Canon C200 for the past 6 years. I've shot some amazing projects on it. It's super versatile. It was a great stepping stone in my career, but there's a reason why I've downsized to the Panasonic S5 IIX, and I'm gonna talk about why. So if you haven't heard of the Panasonic S5 IIX, it's punching way above its weight class, and what it could do for around the $2,000 price range is truly insane, and there were a few features that were an immediate sell to me. Firstly, it was the size for me. The C200 was just way too big of a camera for the type of productions that I see myself doing in the future and I'm currently doing. It's really great for those like bigger productions where I have camera assistants and other people helping me, but I see myself doing a lot more smaller one-man band type of shoots. And it's crazy how much cameras have improved since my C200. Like, I have way more features in a smaller body for less money as well. I paid like 12 grand for my C200 when I financed it through them, and it just was super clunky. And I was recommended the S5 IIX through word of mouth, and I started looking it up, and I came across some videos by our friend Ed and Nigel on YouTube. Check out their videos as well. I was initially looking into an FX3 because I feel like most of the creators on YouTube are using an FX3 for their projects, and it's really easy to just, you know, pick up whatever everyone else is getting. But after I did research on this camera, I was like, there's no way I'm getting an FX3 for, I think it's like 4 or 5 grand for the body. The body on this was like 2K. I had my C200 listed on Marketplace for over 5 months, and there was like hardly any bites. So I had to lower the price a lot more than I actually wanted to get for it, but that's just the name of the game. Camera bodies depreciate like crazy, and that's just how it goes. I didn't want to go for another cinema camera because frankly, I don't have a network to be able to rent out like an Arri or a Red to productions. And it just didn't make sense for me to do that, to spend tens of thousands of dollars on a camera body. I would way rather put that into spec projects and work. I just wanted something that was small that I could pick up and just create a small project for myself. I sort of see my work and career trending in this direction of doing a lot more skeleton and small scale shoots. And I don't want to be bogged down by always having to have an AC on set and, you know, having this huge crew and stuff like that. I really just want to go back to those roots of like being able to pick up my camera and create things. And it's funny because even the Polar video, the last video I just made, we used an Arri 35 and that was just so overkill. And if I had this camera at the time, I definitely would have just used that. And when the projects do permit, I can just build up this camera and put a PL mount on it. And it's funny because I wasn't able to do that on my C200. I did try to order the proprietary EF to PL mount, and they ended up not sending the right screws, so I sent it back to wooden camera. But you have to be careful about the ribbon cable. You're not able to like switch back and forth between the mounts. So I didn't have a PL mount for my C200, and it just felt very limiting when I was working on those bigger productions. It was either only use EF glass or rent a totally different camera system like we did for the Toronto Funhouse video, where we used an FX3 and a Supreme Prime. So those are my reasonings on why I wanted to change up my camera system, but now let's talk about some reasons why I went with this camera. Now I've only put on a few hours with this camera, so I can't really speak on how it performs, but what I have seen so far is really nice footage. But the main reason why I did go with this camera was for the 6K open gate recording. If you don't know what open gate is, it's pretty much in every cinema camera, and the fact that it's in a $2,000 camera body now is just insane to me. Basically what it is every camera sensor is 3x2 in size, and when you're recording video with it, it's actually cropping the top and bottom of your sensor in order to give you the 16:9. And what OpenGate does, it allows you to shoot your full sensor so you're not losing anything on the top and bottom. And in turn, this is gonna just be so much easier when you're shooting social content and also need a 16:9 image as well. So if you crop into 9:16 on a 16:9 image, you're gonna end up having to punch in a lot more versus recording an open gate. It just gives you a little bit more room on the top and bottom of your image. I hope that makes sense. Most deliverables these days are a 9:16, so it's just gonna be a lot easier for me when I do have those projects. And if you want to shoot anamorphic as well, you need the 3x2 open gate. in order to get a proper D-squeeze. So the second reason I went with this camera was for the 10-bit recording, and I'm gonna sound like an absolute dinosaur here, but the C200 only had 8 or 12-bit, and 12-bit was like overkill for most productions, and then 8-bit felt a little bit too underwhelming, and I felt like I needed a little bit more flexibility sometimes. And 10-bit feels like the perfect balance to that. The image so far that I've seen out of this camera is really great, really flexible, and I just felt like I was missing out on that perfect balance. The few images I did grade so far with this camera were really nice to use. I've heard really good things about Vlog, and so far so good. I found on the C200 I would always have to use noise reduction no matter what, even if it was like a super clear day exterior shot. There was always a little bit of muddiness in the shadows. Here I could see the waveform was like super clear so far, which I'm looking forward to as well. The stuff that I did shoot with this camera so far, I used a really cheap ND filter, and it caused some like Xing and discoloration that I tried to clean up. But I have these Polar Pro NDs now that I'm gonna be using. They're cool, they're like magnets. But that's definitely something I'm gonna miss in the C200, is not having the internal NDs and just being able to like flick through. Now we're gonna just be twisting the front of the lens, which whatever, it's fine. The lens I did decide to go with was the Sigma 16 to 28 2.8, and I felt right away that I'm gonna need something a little bit tighter because now we're on full frame, and I just didn't really take into account like how much wider it is on full frame, and I'm excited for that as well. I'll probably pick up the Sigma 28 to 70 down the line as well. I think it's great to have these fast zoom lenses. I was rocking the 18 to 35 Sigma Art on my C200 for years, and those things are just, they're great lenses, they're clean, but it gets the job done. There's also other accessories I'm gonna have to buy down the line, like some V-locks and probably the audio module. Right now I'm using the preamp in the camera, and I wonder how it's gonna sound right now. We're using my NTG4 right now with an XLR to 3.5, so I'm curious to hear if you guys notice any difference in the sound quality. Another feature I'm excited about is the image stabilization. I've heard really good things about it so far. I only tested it that one time at the CNE, but there was that one shot where I took it in a roller coaster and we were going super fast, and it actually stayed pretty smooth. I did notice at 16 millimeters, there's a lot of warping. I just can't use it at that focal length. I'll have to do some more testing to see what focal length it's sort of like optimized for. And I'm also not so much of a gimbal person, so I think it's just gonna be a good middle ground to have like that handheld and that good image stabilization. Along with that, people were raving about the autofocus on this camera. Hopefully this whole talking head piece is in focus. The C200 autofocus was pretty good, so I can only imagine how much it's improved over 6 years. There's honestly a ton of great videos on YouTube talking about this camera and going over specs and stuff like that, and these cameras are just tools at the end of the day. It's just exciting when you get a new one. But I'm just excited to own a new piece of kit and be able to just pick up my camera and go and shoot these smaller projects that I want to create. Even my computer setup, I've decided to downsize that to this MacBook. I was on a Hackintosh for so many years, and at one point I was even using this TV to edit in color grade. I just want less stuff, and I want things to be smaller and less friction. Even my DaVinci panel that I had, I decided to sell that. I just want things to be portable and just get to the core of just creating stuff, and that's it. I think we're starting to see this trend a lot more. You don't need the latest and greatest stuff to just create projects. It was time to upgrade, and I learned the hard way. You don't need the Alexa 35 to shoot the camping commercial. If you like this video, check this one I have queued up. Thanks for watching, subscribe, and see you in the next.